Okay.
We're going. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks to everyone joining this conversation. Thank you, everyone. It's 3 minutes to 3 o'clock here in South Africa, 7 minutes to 3 o'clock here in South Africa, Victoria. Thanks to those of you that you are joining this program. Thank you very, very much. We start a bit earlier, as you know that the person we are hosting is a businessman. So we don't want to bore him. We don't want him to stay so long on the line. So let's start this conversation and let's have a beautiful Monday afternoon as we celebrate African Day. You know, Africa. One of the beauties is that we are one of the most intelligent people you can think of on the surface of Earth. So black is beautiful. Africa is beautiful. Before that, let's just have some music to listen to before we go deep into the business of today. Is going to be on the very interactive section whereby we will discuss around the issues surrounding the African continent and what are we celebrating. If we say we are celebrating African Day, what exactly are we celebrating? What is the African Day stand for? That is why we bring one of the knowledgeable person that we know that he knows in and out when we talk about Africa. He's a scholar. He have had a lot of experience in this field, and you have traveled all over Africa. You're going to hear a lot about that, and you're going to ask questions as well. For those of you that would like to join this conversation, please feel free to call us on the number on your screen for you to send your question across and for you to speak to Mr. Brendan Tshabangu. Is a lawyer and is a businessman and entrepreneur. Thank you very much for those of you that already joining converse. Thank you very much. Do us a favor, share this program, let it go viral. That is the only thing you can do for this program to support this program. Thank you very much and God bless you. Let's just open the line and have some few music to dance to on this program. Then we start the show fully. A lot of people on this show that would like to know much about African culture, African ideology, about the African Day, about what is happening in Africa. But let's enjoy this music before we do that. Let's dance to this music. God bless you, Richard. Thanks to everyone. I hope you enjoyed that music. The African Day today. I hope you are having fun and you are taking it easy, even though there is a lockdown. But that will not disturb or stop us not to celebrate our beautiful continent and our diversity. The Africa is a continent that contains a lot of things, mineral resources. Mention them. Beautiful continent, one of the greatest, great continents in the world. Let's start this show by introducing to our guest in the studio, Anthony Brendan Tshabangu. Welcome to this beautiful the African Pop. How are you today?
And good day to you, Joshua. I am fine, and I hope you're also fine.
I'm doing very well. I'm okay. I'm fine. Thank you very much for joining this conversation and thank you for accepting our invitation to be on this program. I know you are a very busy person, so for us to have you in the studio is a privilege and we don't take it for granted. We appreciate that. Thank you very, very much for believing in Africa and believing the African Portal Radio. I'm believing in us as a human being, the what we call Ubuntu. We have us, you are. Thank you very much for that. And we are going to have a very beautiful afternoon here where we'll be having a conversation around some certain things that have to do with Africa and some issue that is happening in our society and some problem that is facing some African countries. Those are the things that we'll be having conversation around. I just want you to do me a favor before we continue. I want you to introduce yourself fully to the people that will be joining us, or some people doesn't know you. Some people would like to know more about you, what you do, where you are, and what you are doing in the society.
Hello?
Are you with me?
Oh, yes, now
Yes,
I
can
can
you
hear
hear
you.
me?
I can hear you now. It's far better.
Okay,
Um,
okay. Okay, what I said is that I want you to introduce yourself fully to those that will be joining the conversation that doesn't know you, who you are, where you are, and the position you hold in the society.
my name is Brendan Tshabangu, as you have introduced me. Many might have known me as a lawyer, but I am an entrepreneur. I am an author. I am a person, a child of the society. Uh, I sincerely believe that I'm the child of the continent. I am an African.
Hmm, hmm. Thank you very much for that introduction. Good to have you in the studio. Today is African Day. We are celebrating African Day. What is the meaning? What is it? What is the African Day? What are we celebrating?
The Africa Day is meant to coincide with the formation of the Organization of African Union, which turns 57 years old today. It is because of the formation of the African Union that this day was chosen and it is now commemorated as the Africa Day. I personally have certain reservation because the African Union was formed 57 years ago. And we know that Africa is far older than that. But nonetheless, we celebrate the attempts and the endeavors that have been made by the leaders such as Nkwame Nkrumah, the leaders such as
Hmm.
your Moses Kotane, and all other
Indeed.
Osage force
Indeed.
that have fought for the freedom and the unity of Africa.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. No, thank you very much for that introduction. For those of you that will be listening to us, sorry if the line is breaking, if the communication is breaking. Lawyer Shabangu is on the road, so he just parked to just attend to this call. So please pardon us if the line is breaking down in along the line. But it's going to be a very interactive session. Thank you very much for that introduction, letting us know that the African celebration uh, 57 years today, and we know that Africa is older than that. Great, great, great. The South African and the Africa, the title is as Silent the Gun. Silent the Gun. That is the tag they give this year celebration. What is it mean? Which gun are we silencing? Why are we using the silent the gun?
You see, Joshua, In Africa, I think the people in Nigeria will even understand better that when we speak of elections or when we speak of democratic institutions, it is common that a country that has political leaders, you can speak of the APC or the PDP, the ANC, the Frelimo, the ZANU-PF in Africa, all these political parties, they have all been associated with raising violence in order to win elections. I was speaking to someone who's in River State in Nigeria this morning. He said the only way you can win elections in Nigeria is if you've got the army on your side. That means there are still people that die in order to see the realization of political freedom and political will in Africa. In Kenya, I spoke to a friend of mine who said violence is still seen during elections. That tells you that the gun is still seen as the tool through which political organization get power or get to be elected. The freedom and the respect of democracy in Africa is still undermined. Many believe that political parties to win elections in Africa, the ballot does not play any role. You might have seen as well that when the Nigerian politics takes its course, many people die, many people get to be kidnapped, and you get the electoral commissions who stands only as institution that validates election that have nothing to do with voters. So the gun definitely must be silenced in a sense that politics and democracy needs to be fully realized. I am saddened that the year called the year of silencing of the gun is meant and is aligned with the so-called Africa Agenda 2063. I am disappointed to know that even though we are talking of silencing the gun, Africa still has up to 2063 to silence the gun. That is disappointing.
Thank you. Let me call you Honorable Tshabangu. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that. Silencing the gun. No, I like the points you just raised there. I like the points you raised there. Election in Africa, a lot of violence. Many people lost their life during the election, and this is happening all over Africa. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. You mentioned something now that is very, very important, which is you're talking about a vision. I know some years back we used to talk about Vision 2020. Vision 2020. That is about 10 years ago. And we are so excited about it that Vision 2020. What's wrong? What happened to those visions now? Because it's about the vision, but we never see those visions coming true. It's like we just talk about it, we put it on the writing, and that is all. There's nothing coming out of all those visions that we are talking about. What happened to Vision 2020 that's been talking about 10 years ago?
I think the problem we have in Africa is that we plan to achieve a moment. We plan to achieve a political concept. I like what the king of Dubai is doing. He says, we don't have to plan for 20 years. You must plan for 5 years. You must build skyscrapers in 5 years. You must beat unemployment in 5 years. You must beat economic inequality in 5 years. You must give economic freedom to your people in 5 years. And we are seeing Dubai leading by example and ensuring that such takes place. They have become the first world country. 60 years ago, Dubai was just a desert. Today, they are a nation to be reckoned with because their planning is not for 10 years. They plan for 5 years. Africa, we plan for 40 years. We have that problem that we have an African Union that does not recognize Africa. That has become the problem. We are a union of Africa that depends on Europe for funding, yet we've got the minerals yet we've got all the natural resources. We have nothing that we produce for ourselves, for our consumption. We produce what we don't consume, and we consume what we don't produce. That is our problem.
Hmm. Thank you very much to that. Thank you to that response. I like what you said there. Thank you very much to that. You have opportunity to travel to many countries in the world. You have been in many countries in the world, especially in the Western and in some part of the Arab world. What are they doing differently that we are not doing in Africa?
It starts with planning. They have short-term goals. They don't talk of long-term goals. They they are long-term goals and the short-term goals are all in the same period. For example, if the Arab countries plan to beat poverty, they plan that we have 2 years to bring poverty to its knees. But Africa, when we plan to deal with poverty, we plan for 20 years. And when 20 years come, we change the plan, we shift the goals to something else. Two, they have what you call solidarity for its people. The Arabs are not going to protect an African if an Arab is threatened. They will first ensure that an Arab person is protected and is in a viable situation for success. While in Africa, we don't put African first. We have put all the other nations before us. We have Europeans, we have other continents that comes before Africans in Africa. While the other countries, you can go to Spain, the Spanish people come first. But if you go to Africa, the African people don't come first. That's our problem.
Hmm, hmm, Okay, no, I like what you say because if we are talking about Africa, we put ourselves behind. We don't put the African first. The African leader, they don't have the attributes or the idea of putting the African first. The people first. Them themselves as a leader come first. Yeah, that is very great. But another challenges that we am seeing in Africa is that it's not only happened to the leader, the followers as well in Africa. We have a lot of problem by us tearing ourselves apart and by us not trusting ourselves and believing in ourselves. What could you think that is a problem? What is causing that?
You see, the issue of solidarity, until we are united as a nation. Today we're celebrating Africa Day, but we're still dealing with Africa that is fragmented. You look at matters of common education in Africa. What is it that is common in all our African education system? We do not know and regard one another. If I go to Nigeria, I'll be called a separate name. If African foreigners come to South Africa, they are called different names. We do not have common education about ourselves. That is the first background of our failure. We need to have a common education system that will make me to go to Nigeria and be recognized. When I go to Kenya to be recognized, we need to have a common education platform that will make us to speak the same language. So far, we're speaking different languages and we have different knowledge about ourselves. In fact, we do not even know ourselves as Africans. That is why words such as xenophobia, when they are being uttered, certain part of Africa shakes because we do not know ourselves. If you go to Asia, you will never find a Chinese disallowing benefits of natural human conduct to another Taiwanese. They are all Asians, but they are not all nationalities. But when it comes to matters that involve Africans, all the Asians will come together. But only in Africa that when it comes to matters that affect Africans, we defragment.
I love that. You are laying a very good foundation, and you are taking me to an aspect that is very very crucial, which is one of the important part of this conversation. But before I go into that, you said something that is very, very important that I want us to look into, which is language. I mean, I want us to quickly look at the area of language, because well, that is one of the biggest problems that Africa is facing. You will see that many African language is fading out, and a lot of people don't believe in African language anymore. Some people believe in other parts of the world, Africa. During my research in year 2010, I come to realize that there is a design by the other part of the world that they want their own language to dominate in Africa, like those language that we know that people embrace, like you talk of English, you talk of French, you talk of Portuguese. Those language are gaining ground more in African than any other African language. What caused that? Yeah, can we say that we see our own language as inferior and see those other language as a language that is more superior? What is causing that?
In short, I will tell you that the effects of colonization, they continue to gain ground in Africa. When African countries gained their independence, they gained their independence without divorcing themselves from the systems of the colonizers. We are still tagging along the lines of colonization as Africa. You go to Nigeria, the legal system of Nigeria still requires Nigeria to wear these wigs that they don't even make sense to the people of Nigeria. And they have divorced themselves to the law of the land. I'm talking about their cultural laws in favor of the Englishman's law. Two, in South Africa and any other country, if you don't speak English, you are not regarded as a human being. You are in fact minimized into a useless being. You are seen as a lesser human being. If you go to Western, some part of Southern Africa, if you can't speak Portuguese, you are seen as a less human being. The effects of colonization in Africa are still alive and well.
Thank you very much. Because we will not only have this conversation, we will also look what will be the solution. Because to have a conversation is good. We are having a conversation and we are putting out some errors, some mistakes, and we don't have solution to it. That means there is no point of having the conversation. What do you think it can be the solution to that?
I have made a suggestion to you earlier that we need to have an educational change. We need to have a uniform education system that will feature in all the 54 African states. One, that education should talk to Africa. That education should talk to the needs of Africans. That education should talk to solutions for Africa. Right now, when you speak of African problems, you look at Europe for solution. When you look at educational programs for Africa, you look at Europe. When you look at solutions for Africa, you look at Europe. Until we develop our own educational platforms that talk to our problem, that talk to our solution, and that talk to our continuity as Africa, we are not going to succeed, and nor will we achieve anything. The platform that we need to deal with first is education. Before we can talk of unity of Africa, I hear we are talking about inter-Africa trade, the trade between African countries. We are talking about the United States of Africa. How do you unite Africans on a foreign language? Why don't you come with a uniform African language first to say all Africans need to know Swahili or Yoruba or Igbo? We need to identify a common language. We need to identify a common education. Then we can talk of one Africa. How can we be a one Africa, but we can't understand one another?
No, thank you for that. I like that you bring up for us to embrace one of the African language and use it as a medium of communication in Africa. But that is good. It's a good thing to say. For those of you listening to us, this is African Portal Radio. Stop Miss Dear House, where everyone have to say. We are your lion voice, where we promote African ideology and African culture. Thank you very much for those of you that are joining us. This is Lawyer Tshabangu in the studio with me, that you are having a deep conversation about African culture and about what we are celebrating today. And you have mentioned a lot of things that is very, very important to Africa. We are still on this conversation. Lawyer Tshabangu, thank you very much. I just want to quickly know, have you have opportunity to visit any part of Africa that you can speak their language, maybe Yoruba, maybe Hausa, maybe Igbo, maybe Swahili, maybe, can you just blow any of African language? Because it's a good thing that we also, it starts with us. We cannot be passing the blame on anyone. It starts with us. The solution is start with us. And I tell you that you are part of the solution. We are not a part of the problem. So we are part of the solution. And that is what is key. And that is why I like what you are doing. And I like how you are actually glamoring for the United Africa. Do you have any language that you have an idea that you can speak in Africa?
Well, Joshua, I have had an opportunity to visit Nigeria in the year 2014, 2015. And I did learn some few Yoruba words. I have also had an
Wow.
opportunity to visit the eastern part of Africa. You're talking of Rwanda, Kenya, and Uganda. I have also had an opportunity to visit. In total, I've visited about 21 African countries. 21 African
Wow.
countries.
Wow.
I have,
Wow.
I have,
Wow.
for
Wow. So
example, in my,
continue.
sorry, for example,
Continue. Continue.
in Nigeria, I have learned the Yoruba people that when they greet, they will say Ekaro. They will say Kilonshele. They will say Eshego. I know, for example, when they praise God, they very often say Oluwa. You know, they have words such as Oluwashen, like we thank God, Oluwatishe. You know, those are all beautiful words from the Yoruba language. And in the eastern part of Africa, they speak Swahili. When you go to the airports in the east of Africa, they will say Karibu, meaning you are welcome. They will say words such as Asante Sana, meaning we thank you very much.
Hmm.
And then
No, thank you very much. Continue.
you will also meet
Continue.
the people. You'll also meet the people from the Shona lands. They speak Shona. They will say Zwiri say, Zwiri bo. You know, they will say Nwari. That is to mean good day and how are you? We thank the Lord. Dinotenda Nwari.
Mm, 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 mm.
Those are the languages in Africa.
No, thank you. Thank you so much, Lawyer Shabangu. That is a beautiful one. I like that, and I like that. I like the way you put it together from the west to the east and to the south. I love that. Thank you very, very much. I know you've explored a lot, and you've thought about Africa. That is why I put you on this seat. Thank you very much for this. But if I may ask you, have you ever do any research about your own family tree to try to look at it? Where are you originally coming from?
Look, I am not going to talk of a family tree that will be short-sighted. I am from Africa, from the south to the west, to the east, to the north. I am the child of Africa. If you ask me of my family tree,
Oh
I will
wow.
say my family tree is that of Africa. Whether you say South Africa or East Africa, at the end of the day, my origin is Africa. That is why when I look at a Nigerian, I don't
Africa.
say
Oh,
Nigerian, I say an African. When I look at a Namibian, I see an African.
wow.
When I see an Angolian, I see an African. My origin, you will see it in my book, Minding the Immigrant, where I say the origin of an African man is Africa, irrespective of the borders that were created by the colonizers. We are but Africans.
No, I like your response on that, and I like that response. I've read your book, I've read that book, and I follow a lot in that book, and I like some of the things that you put together in that book. That I don't have a copy of that book with me, but for those of you that you are listening as well, Lawyer Tshabangu is also an author. He have a book that is selling very well. I think it's one of the book selling so well now in the book market in South Africa. If you want to know more, you can contact me or speak to Lawyer Tshabangu directly about if you need a copy of that book. I think it's a book that all African citizens needs to read. And you need to read that book before you actually wake up in the morning and think of traveling to any other part of the world. Lawyer Tshabangu, thank you very, very much for that response on that. But you post a video about a few days ago that you are clamoring or calling for. Let me put it this way: you are talking about the business in South Africa. You mentioning some part of this province where you talk about Johannesburg, where a lot of people, African brothers and sisters, have took over the area. You're talking about Sunnyside, you're talking about Ibro, you're talking about Tom Fontaine. What exactly are you trying to portray in that video?
Well, in that video, I was responding to a talk show that was held in Nigeria by one Mr. Adeyemi, who is the manager for the business development in Nigeria. In that video, Mr. Adeyemi says he has not seen a country like South Africa where foreigners have occupied 90% of the town to an extent that the locals are being threatened. And he was relating to a video when there was an uprising in Sunnyside between foreigners and the locals, where a group of immigrants threatened the South African police to say, you are not allowed to come to Celia's Street because that street is made up of foreigners, in particular Nigerian. Mr. Adeyemi was sharing how disappointed he is that South Africa has allowed its own people to be second-class citizens in their own country. So my submission in that video was to say South Africans have relegated themselves. I wouldn't really blame the foreigners who have occupied those areas, but I blame South Africans who have become second-class citizens in their own country by one, refusing to start small businesses or refusing to participate in what we call the microeconomy of the country, and two, by allowing certain opportunities that are reserved for them to be taken by immigrants who, in fact, by law should not have been allowed to take those opportunities. So I put the blame directly on our people to say we should rise and ensure that we work with the foreigners or we work with the immigrants in building those sectors. We should not run away from those sectors for the sake of it. Instead, we must build those sectors. Right now, we are seeing our own people running away from small businesses. If you go to Sunnyside, all saloons are owned by foreigners. Not even one saloon in Sunnyside is owned by a South African. Why? Why are South Africans not participating in the saloon business? You go to the mini supermarkets, they are run by Ethiopians, Somalis, Bangladeshis. Why are South Africans not there? Why did we relegate ourselves from running these economies? You go to Hillbrow. All nightclubs, all liquor businesses are run by foreigners. Not even one business there is run by South Africans. You go to Tefontaine, even selling sweets in the street is now businesses that are run. Those small things that should have been run by South Africans are being run by immigrants who should not even be given an opportunity to run such microeconomies. I am saying South Africans should rise and stand up and equally share in those opportunities with the immigrants. At the moment, immigrants are running 100% of those industries. And I like what Adeyemi in Nigeria is saying. He's saying what South Africa is allowed should not be.
No, no, I like that. I like that. But if you are referring to the foreigner, who are those people you are referring to? Who are the foreigners?
Look, you might notice that in my vocabulary, I I most often use the word immigrant than the word foreigner, but they mean the same thing. We talk of people who are coming from another country to sojourn in another country for a specific reason. We differentiate, you can see that in my book, we differentiate between economic migrants, political migrants, and social migrants. The economic migrants are those that leave their country for purposes of seeking better economic opportunities in another country. And economic opportunities are defined in every country. In South Africa, when we speak of economic opportunities that immigrants are welcome to participate on, you talk of textile industry, you speak of the construction industry, we speak of the investment industry. You don't speak of saloon industries. Those are opportunities that are reserved for locals. You don't speak of mini supermarket industry. So when we speak of immigrants, we need to differentiate them according to the categories. Are we dealing with Joshua, the academic immigrant in South Africa, or an economic immigrant in South Africa? If he is an economic immigrant in South Africa, he should participate in the macroeconomic setup, because in the macroeconomic setup, that is where he is legislatively allowed to play.
Mm. No, thank you so much. But is it not contradicting if you are talking about even whether you use foreigner or you use migrant? When you say you are military, that you are Africa, but those people you are referring to, they are also the citizen of Africa. So what is the difference? What is the difference?
You see, I have told you about the demarcations which are still an effect of colonization. In as much as we are all Africans, we are at the moment belonging to African countries that are sovereign from one another. South Africa, as an African state, has its own laws and regulation for the people in South Africa. Until when Africa is one, those in Africa must abide and respect the rule of law in South Africa. Those in Nigeria must respect the rule of law in Nigeria. We cannot at the moment speak of South Africa and Nigeria as if they are uniformly the same state. There are laws that are applicable in the Nigerian borders, and same applies to South Africa. It is not contradictory that an African person from Nigeria coming to South Africa is precluded from running a barber shop, while in Nigeria, South Africans are not allowed to run barber shops. It's not contradictory. In fact, it's all about bringing the nationals of that country first, but making sure that the African perspective and goal is also achieved.
Okay. Thank you for that response. Thank you for that response. I just want us to quickly share light on some few things that I think is causing a lot of problem, because a lot of people receive that of yours on the other side and they misinterpret it. And what they are saying is that we are coming to take over. We are going to chase every one of you out of Sunnyside. We are coming to take over with violence. With violence. And now the question is this: if we are talking about the people in a particular area in South Africa doing business in those areas, and if any other person can afford the rent of the shop in that particular area, I don't think the agents or the property business, I don't think they discriminate that, okay, this place we only give part of people, or everybody's allowed. If you have money, you can go there, rent the space, and do your business there. So I don't agree with the point that the foreigners take out the migrants or whoever taking over everybody have opportunity to everything if you can avoid it. So what I'm trying to bring out there is that, don't you think that it's not that somebody is taking over a space, it's just that the economy of the people, some people cannot afford those area to do business, and that is why they don't go for it. What do you think?
I do not think immigrants are in fact taking over the space in the context that you are saying. And I believe that South Africans are also having equal opportunities with the foreigners when it comes to certain sectors. Um, as a matter of fact, I am reminded of the fact that one, if you deal with the oh, sorry, if you deal with the if you deal with property agents, South Africans are afforded equal opportunity, but that opportunity comes differently because one, in Sunnyside, I'll use Sunnyside as an example. You do not have all foreigners in Sunnyside who are business people. It is not true, and it cannot be correct that all the people in Sunnyside who are foreigners are involved one way or another into business. But they have what you call a grouping. I don't know if you understand what I mean by grouping. You get one Nigerian person who is able to get 6 other Nigerians to come and stay with him in a flat in order to assist him to pay rent. So the moment he's got less rent payments or obligation, he is able to use a certain reserve of his money to start a small business. And by doing this grouping, you are then able to push other locals out of the business or out of the territory. That is the problem. We have allowed grouping unfairly in South Africa.
No, no, I hear you there. I hear you there. I hear you there. Is there anything wrong the grouping that you just mentioned now? Is there anything wrong in it?
Let me tell you what is wrong in it. One, it flaunts or it violates the regulation on one occupation. You find a 2-bedroom being occupied by 8 immigrants. And I can tell you now, this is a problem that even property agents have been raising since time immemorial. That one, immigrants, you put one in the flat, if you go to inspect, you find 10. That is wrong because it creates an unfair competition between the immigrants and the locals. And the moment that is done, it affects one, competition, and two, it makes unfair advantage. For instance, if I, as a South African, I am expected to pay 6,000 rands on a flat, and I am required to have only 3 people in the flat. You come in from another country, and you are going to reside in this flat. When you reside in this flat, you get 8 people, each of you contributing 500 rands to reside in that property. That automatically creates an unfair advantage that the South African people do not have. That number one is point number one. It creates unfair advantage to the immigrants. And secondly, because of the unfair economic advantage, the locals do not have the surplus funds to start whatever small businesses they will have. And two, they do not get to have what we call a financial advantage to compete in the microeconomic setups.
No,
That, that, that is
I hear you
common.
there. I hear you there. But yeah, continue.
That is
Yeah, you
common
can
in
continue.
every country. It is common in every country in the world. If you go to China, the Chinese, they have regulations that says one bedroom, two people, two bedrooms, three people. In South Africa, you have one bedroom being occupied by 5 immigrants, each paying 200 rands. And are you telling me that is still fair competition where South Africans in that area in Sunnyside, they are expected to stay two in a room? There's the very same room where South Africans are two, foreigners are six. Isn't that an unfair advantage?
Okay, I hear you there, but I just want to differentiate something from this conversation because if we bring the issue of the property business into it, they know what they want. I can guarantee you from where I from where I stand, even the owner of the property, they know because they don't want their property to just be there without nobody occupying it. So they don't have a choice. So let's take the issue of the property out because what you are saying now, there is a lot of South Africans as well that own a flat in Sunnyside and they don't stay there. They stay in Mamelodi. They rent that flat house to foreigner. What do you say to that?
You see, what has happened, the influx of immigrants in places like Sunnyside has pushed away locals into different areas of the metros. In that one, they don't feel like they belong in Sunnyside anymore. And they have turned the only leasehold they have into an opportunity to collect rent. That is why they find themselves giving those properties to foreigners so that they can make an extra 1,000 or 200. It is exactly what I'm against. When I said it earlier, I said South Africans have relegated themselves from the very opportunities that are available in those areas. I do not agree with South Africans who go and lease a flat for 3,000 rands from City Property and lease it to a group of Nigerians in Sunnyside at 6,000 rands. I do not agree with that.
But that is happening. That is what is happening. If you are talking about
That is why
relegation, I don't think anybody relegated. I think
no,
some people that because of the benefit of what they will have, because they knows that if they move to Mamelodi, house is cheaper in Mamelodi. So I'd rather be staying in 3 bedroom apartment in Mamelodi, 500 rand, and give the house in Sunnyside to some people to be staying there and having more money. That is the system.
now,
I mean, that
now
is what exactly is happening.
let me tell you why I don't agree. One, you as a South African, you are a lawbreaker and you are assisting the immigrants to break the law in that you are self-aware that in this particular property only 3 people are allowed to stay. The lease is in your name, but because you want to secure a certain rand or two for your advantage, you allow a group of 10 immigrants to stay in that flat as long as you are getting a small minimum change. That is why I say the South Africans are to blame for that situation. You'll remember when I started, I say I blame our people for that because it is their own weaknesses that have led to foreigners to create this influx.
Okay. Thank you very, very much for that response. I don't want us to dwell so much in that. Let's quickly divert a bit from that. Have you have opportunity to visit a certain area in the central London? Probably you've been in London, you've been in central London. Do you notice that most of the houses in central London is occupied by the foreigners?
You see, the issue of London and the United States, they have a different immigration regulation compared to Africa. In as much as London has a significant number of immigrants, there is a different law enforcement, which in South Africa we often don't have. I know of the growing number of people in London. Hence, you see many of them dying in the Mediterranean Sea just to get to London and other European countries.
Can I come in?
Yes,
Can I come in?
yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. Oh, thank you. The video that you watched, that you put together with your clips, I just want to quickly respond to that. I think Mr. Ademoye, I think it was misled there by the media. I can say that because what he said is not true. For him to say that, the South Africa is not. I mean, there is nobody that can accept that in Africa. There are a lot of places in Nigeria. Lebanon Street. There is a place called Lebanon Street. The whole street is owned by the foreigners. There's a lot of places I can mention to you in Lagos that is being taken over by the foreigners. And the citizens of Nigeria never have problem with that as long as they are paying their rent. And let's talk about the when you say the South Africans are not they are not having opportunity to do business like a small scale business, selling sweets and everything. Do you know
No,
many
you're
South
making a
African company in
mistake.
Nigeria operatives and do well in Nigeria? Okay.
I am not saying South
Okay.
Africans do not
Coming.
have opportunities. I am not saying South Africans do not have an opportunity. I am saying South Africans have on their own decided to escape from these areas and leave the opportunities available for the immigrants. Not that they don't have, the opportunities are there, but we have voluntarily left these areas for immigrants to explore.
Okay, I agree with you. But let me be honest to you. There's still a lot of people that are saying that it's not that they were scared of staying in Sunnyside. There's nothing pursues them out of Sunnyside. It's just because of their sheer situation that them to relocate to a place where they can pay less because they cannot afford it. Because you come to realize that in those areas mentioned, the rent is higher, the electricity charges in those areas is higher, charges in those areas is so much, so they cannot afford it, and they decide that okay, no, this I cannot, because with my salary and what I'm earning, I will not be able to rent an apartment in this kind of area. And the people that knows that okay, we don't have a choice because we don't have a place to go, we just have to reside in a place, and I mean they don't have a choice than to take over the place. And remember that there is no job opportunity for any of these African brother and sister. So they have to hustle for them to have for them to survive. So in an environment whereby the government is not providing job for them, there is no job opportunity for them, automatically the system have kicked all the African brother and sister out of the system for them to get a job. So how do we want them to survive if also we are talking about South African come back, taking over some particular area in our metro?
I am not against the survival techniques of the immigrants, and I am not against them participating in the microeconomy. What I'm against is the failure of South Africans to equally share with immigrants in those areas of the economy. I am in favor of two South Africans who have partnerships with foreigners to run a certain business. And I'm in favor of South Africans who embark on an opportunity to run the small businesses that South Africans have not partook on. Those are the things that South Africans need to partake and participate on. I am not saying foreigners must be cut out. I'm not in favor of foreigners being cut out of those areas. I am saying, as South Africans, they should as well, while we are looking at opportunities, they should find a way to ensure that South Africans are at least given a certain percentage. You can't say, for example, 100% of stores in Sunnyside be run by foreigners without saying you will create a certain percentage for the locals. The number of stores or the number of microeconomic establishment, there must be a proportional sharing between the immigrants and the local. And there must be legislation that is put in place to protect the locals when it comes to those opportunities. I am not at all against the survival mode or their participation. I'll make an example. If you go to Kenya, if you go to Tanzania, if you go to Rwanda, there are laws that says microeconomic establishment, 60% thereof must be allocated to locals. So if an immigrant arrives in that country wanting to participate, he must be prepared to either lease from the local person or work with the local person. Balance the level of unemployment and the level of poverty. In that one, you have a significant number of locals that employ both immigrants and also employ locals. But with the current system in South Africa, you get an area, for example, I'll make use of Fontaine in the north of Johannesburg, in the south of Johannesburg. You get 90% of immigrants who have employed immigrants, and you have only 1% of South Africans who are working in those businesses. 1%.
No, I hear you. There is a lot to discuss, but unfortunately, I know you are a businessman. You have a lot in your table to attend to. Time will not permit us to move further on this conversation. But I believe it has been a very successful conversation that you have shared the light to the video that's go viral on the social media, and you have let us understand that the purpose and the aim behind that video. Thank you very much, Honorable Tshabangu. Thank you very much for coming out to join us in this radio station to have this conversation. It's my great pleasure having you here. Thank you very, very much. I hope next time when we call you, you will be happy to join the conversation again.
I thank you very much, Joshua, and happy African Day to you.
Same to you. Same to
Thank
you.
you.
Same to you. Thank you very much. Next time when we call you, I hope you will be happy to join us.
I will definitely do.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. God bless you. Like I said, Aaron, Honorable Tshabangu is a author. Please call out for that book. That book is very, very crucial. I think that book needs to go around all African continents for us to be able to succeed as a continent. Thank you very much for those of you that are joining us. Is Honorable Tshabangu there that we are having a deep conversation with on things that have to do with Africa as we're celebrating African Day today. I hope you enjoy that conversation. Thank you very much. For those of you that you are misinterpreting those, that video, you've heard it yourself what Honorable Brendan Tshabangu is talking about us being one and share the resources that we have and benefit from ourselves. We are here for ourselves. Let's remove the mentality. The colonization is in the mind, is in the play. You have to decolonize. You have to remove all this mentality of slavery. In Africa, let's be one. Let's have one African voice. Let's see ourselves as brothers and sisters. Let's embrace ourselves. Let's embrace our diversity. Let's stop calling ourselves names Zimbabwe, Nigeria. Those are the names given to us by the colonial masters. Let's embrace ourselves as a fellow African brother and sisters. And let's work towards the progress of Africa. This continent will be great if we make ourselves one. And if we fail to unite ourselves, it will tell on the next generation. Our children will suffer if we don't embrace our diversity, and if we don't make ourselves one and promote our language and our culture and reintroduce our culture and language to our children, for them to see the beauty of our culture and language. I thank you very much for those of you that you are listening to us. Thank you very much for the part of this show. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking it. Thank you for joining this conversation. Thank you very much. And I pray that the Africa will great again. We have been there before and we will get there again. Thank you. For those of you that would like to speak to me or you want to ask more questions, the number on the screen is number to call. Call me on that number. I would like to hear from you. If you want to be part of what we are doing, you want us to put you on the spotlight or on the hot seat, contact me on that number as well. We want a sponsor. Those of you that you have wealth, you have money, you have resources to sponsor this program, do that. Let's take this program to the next level. It's for everyone. It's the African Portal, the Lion Voice, where everyone have a say. Thank you very much for those of you that you are following us. Thank you for those of you that you are liking our show. Thank you for those of you that you are advising us how to do it more better. Thank you for believing in our vision. Thank you for joining us. Tomorrow we'll be having another series of this African celebration with another African community leader all the way from US. We'll be having the conversation as well. Join us tomorrow evening on our show, your favorite show, Karakata. On Wednesday, we will be continuing this series with another African brother from Uganda. He's a lawyer as well. It will be on this radio station. We'll be having the conversation. Thank you and God bless you. Do have a great day and enjoy the rest of your day. God bless you. Very good. We have a caller here, but unfortunately, we are just about to round up the show. He just wants to contribute, but unfortunately, we are rounding up now, and our guest is already out of the studio. Just let us know who is on the line. How are you? Sorry, the line is not getting well. Let me just quickly see if we can reconnect you back. The network is not going great. So as I'm saying, we are rounding up of the show. We will see you again tomorrow by the grace of God. Do enjoy the rest of your day and have a beautiful African Day celebration. Enjoy it. Spend it with family and friends and enjoy yourself. Africa will great again. Together, we can do it. Together, we can make Africa great again. Unite Africa, one voice, one love. Let's make it happen. Together, we can do it. God bless Africa. God bless this continent. God bless everyone listening to me. God bless this continent once again. Have a beautiful Monday afternoon, and God bless you. Very good. I will see you again tomorrow. Before we out of this studio, let me just give you a music for you to enjoy as we are celebrating the African Day, and I will end up with the same music that we began with. Thank you very much. For those of you that would like to call me, the number is on the screen. Let's have the conversation. You can still join us and continue the conversation on the social media. On Facebook, you can speak to us. I'm also on Instagram and all other social media. Let's connect and have a chat on it. God bless you. Very good. God bless you. Very good. God bless you. Very good. Enjoy this music from us to you to celebrate your African Day. God bless Africa. God bless the African Portal Radio. And God bless all our followers. See you again next week. See you again. God bless you. Bye.